Hello everyone, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back this week with another Alabama podcast. On this podcast, the DC Capstone Report, we look at all things Alabama football. Today, in our first segment, we're going to review the game against the Arkansas Razorbacks. In our second segment, we're going to look at our standout players of the game against Arkansas. In our third and final segment, we're going to preview the upcoming SEC championship game this coming Saturday with the Florida Gators. You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com. Before we do that, I just want to thank all of you who have tuned in each and every time this year, this football season, to listen to this podcast. Our viewers, our listeners continues to grow. Lance and I are so happy that you have continued to support us, and it's just a great thing that we get to do. We enjoy doing this together. I'm just the voice, and Lance does all the things you see, the videos, the pictures, all the production. Lance Shores does a great job. And he and I do this. We just want to take just a second to say why we do this. We do this in honor of Lance's brother and my best friend, Gary Shores, who passed away a couple of years ago. Gary and I did this podcast together, and Lance graciously agreed to help me carry it on in his honor and his memory. And so we do this because Gary was a great Alabama supporter. Gary was a great athlete himself. And Gary worked at the Bryant Museum for over 25 years, and it's a great resource for Alabama football history. So it's mine and Lance's pleasure that we get to carry on this in his honor and carry on his legacy. So thank you all for tuning in again to this podcast on Alabama football. Now, this first segment today, we're going to review the game against Arkansas. A fantastic game. I think it was a good game all around. You can nitpick and find errors if you want to in any game, but in this game, Alabama comes away with a victory 52-3. I said last week this could be possibly a letdown game, but I told you all that I didn't think Alabama was going to allow that to happen, that this team was on a mission. The team completed what no other team in the Southeastern Conference has ever done, a 10-game all-Southeastern Conference schedule, and completed that season 10-0, a perfect record, with a chance to go on next week to play Florida in the SEC championship game, and stepping stone there into the national playoff picture. But let's talk about this Arkansas game. Offense production 52-3. And it wasn't the kind of offensive game that you think that Alabama would have. We would look for a lot of big plays in the passing game, and there were some, but those plays were few and far between on the deep ball. And the reason being, and it's something that we need to look at, because Arkansas did a defense in this game that caused Mac Jones to really play one of his best games at quarterback. He was 24-29 of 208 yards, 0 TDs, and 0 interceptions. Now, you may think, well, he didn't have any TDs, but he made great decisions. I said last week that he needed to take what the defense of Arkansas gave him, and he did just that. He threw the underneath route to tight ends and to crossing routes and to backs out of the backfield. Did a great job of spreading the ball around to get the 208 yards. And when the defense took away the deep ball with double coverage and zone coverage that took away the deep ball, he was able to throw the short passes to get the team down the field, convert third down. He did a great job of that. So I thought he did a wonderful job. When they took away that deep ball, what it did was it opened up our rushing game, and we got into some really good in the rushing statistics. We had all of our touchdowns came by via the rush. We had 3 rushing touchdowns by Brian Robinson. Najee Harris had 2 rushing touchdowns. Jace McClellan had a long run at the end for a touchdown. So all of those touchdowns coming by via the rush. We also had a special teams touchdown. Devontae Smith took back a punt return, 84 yards for a touchdown. So really on the offensive side, special teams, perfect play, I think. Took what the defense gave us, did a really good job. On the defensive side of the ball, it looked as if on the first drive, the scripted drive that Arkansas had, they made some yards. But I'm here to tell you that after that, the Alabama's defense really shut down this Arkansas's offensive attack. They gained the majority of their yards on the first drive and the second drive. They had 108 yards passing for the game. They held them under 200 yards passing, almost under 100 yards passing. and they had 80 yards rushing for the game, held the team under 100 yards. So our defense really did a good job. The first play of the game on defense, however, Christian Harris got a shoulder injury. Now, recently we've learned that it wasn't an injury that will need him having surgery, so it's possible that he'll be back in this game against Florida. That remains to be seen if he'll be able to get back. But I thought the defense really played well after he went down. The next man up was Jaylen Moody. He did a fantastic job of coming in and filling in for Christian Harris. Josh McMillan got to play a lot in this game for Dylan Moses. And it just really an overall, I think, a full team win. We had some takeaways. We had some sacks. We had pressure at the quarterback. To me, this defense just completely built on what they've done up to this point. And it was a really, really good showing on defense. So overall, I thought the game went well. I thought Alabama played well. Came out of Arkansas with a 52-3 victory. Well, in the second segment here on the DC Capstone Report, welcome back. This is DC. Get to bring this report to you each and every week. And here in the second segment, we're going to take a look at our standout players of the game against Arkansas. Well, you don't have to look very far. I think our rushing game is where the offensive side of the ball standout players have to come from. So the first thing off the top, what I'd like to say is I would like to say that the entire offensive line for the Alabama football team that played in this game, that means starters and reserves, everybody on the offensive line is my standout player of the game again. For the second time this year, the offensive line just really, really did a great job. I thought they opened holes, they blocked well, they pulled when they needed to pull, they imposed their will on short yardage. It just everything that they did really did a good job in this game. So the entire offensive line, both starters and reserves that played in the game, are my standout players of the game on offense. My second standout player of the game on offense is Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson had 13 carries for 54 yards, and he averaged 4.2 yards a carry, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He did really good in short yardage. Thought he did really well. I think he comes in, he doesn't get enough credit being the backup tailback at Alabama, but I think, and I want to go ahead and say it out now so that people can hold it against me later or they can agree with me later. I think Brian Robinson is going to have a great NFL career, and you're going to see him much like Josh Jacobs, who is now flourishing in the NFL as a starting tailback for the Las Vegas Raiders, let me correct myself. He's done such a great job, and he wasn't a starter at Alabama. Brian Robinson has never been a starter at Alabama, but I think he has the talent, so he's one of my standout players of the game on offense. And my other standout player of the game on offense has to be Najee Harris. He had 14 carries for 46 yards for only a 3-yard average, but added 2 more touchdowns to get this record at the University of Alabama for rushing touchdowns. And just Najee Harris I felt like he adjusted in this game. He was slipping down earlier. They made some adjustments with his cleats. He came back in and really played with a really good head of steam in the time he was in. He got some rest in this game. Didn't have to play the entire game. Brian Robinson played more. Jason McClellan came in and had the long touchdown run at the end of the game as well. So overall, on offense, I thought we played well. I think it started with the offensive line. They're my standout player of the game, and then Brian Robinson and Najee Harris. Let's move over to defense. Christian Harris going down, as we've already talked about, at the very beginning of this game, could have been a significant problem, a plug. Last year, one of our defensive linebackers goes down, it causes a really big problem. But this year is a little different year. Alabama has more depth. They have some players that can get game playing time that's really competed during the practice. And when Christian Harris went down, the next man up in the rotation at that middle inside linebacker position was number 42, Jaylen Moody. Now, Jaylen Moody has been in the program for a while. He's had some good series of plays in practice and working together with some of the starters. So he's really done a good job. But when he came in, he really did a good job of keeping his gaps and making tackles. He had 4 tackles and 3 assists when he came in, and I really was impressed with his play. I thought he did a really good job. So Jaylen Moody on defense, having to step up cold at the first play of the game, had to come in and play the rest of the game at that middle linebacker position for Christian Harris, and he did a fantastic job. So he's one of my standout players of the game on defense. My second standout player of the game on defense is somebody that I've always been high on, but Christian Barmore. I think Christian Barmore played a big part in pressuring the quarterback in this early stages against Arkansas. He had 2 tackles and 1 assist, but 2 of those were sacks. He had 2 sacks. Anytime you can get pressures on the quarterback, it really helps our defense on the back end. So he did a really good job. So Christian Barmore is one of my standout players of the game on defense. And my other standout player of the game on defense, which seems to be calling his name more and more these days, but Will Anderson Jr., freshman Will Anderson Jr., again, did a fantastic job. He had two tackles in this game, and they were both of the tackles were sacks, and he did a really good job of getting to the quarterback. I think Alabama pressured the quarterback in this game much more than they have in past games. We had 2 sacks by Christian Barmore and 2 sacks by Will Anderson. We had a sack by Tim Smith. We had a sack by Shane Lee. We had a sack by Christopher Allen. I think Byron Young and Fendarian Mathis teamed up together on a sack. So overall, we just really did a good job of pressuring the quarterback. And I think that's something we're going to have to build on as we go into our next game. So my standout players of the game on defense are Jaylen Moody, Christian Barmore, and Will Anderson Jr. On offense, the entire offensive line, starters and reserves that played in the game, Brian Robinson and Najee Harris. Well, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report. Welcome back. We're glad that you're listening in. Here in our third and final segment, it's my pleasure to be able to preview the SEC Championship game against the Florida Gators. Well, did we ever think that we'd get to the SEC Championship game in 2020, this year of the virus, this year of COVID? And there's been a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, but this Alabama team was able to complete a 10-game, 10-win, all-SEC schedule. And they're going to, right now, barring any unforeseen circumstances, is going to be able to compete in the SEC Championship game this coming Saturday against the Florida Gators. Well, Florida had a little slip-up this past week. May have been overlooking LSU. LSU came into that game with seemingly no chance, and it looked like Florida rested some of their players, including Pitts, their star tight end. And it looked like that they kind of played a lackluster performance and some fog and weather there at home. And LSU goes in there and beats the Florida Gators last week. So what's that going to do to Florida coming in this game? I think they were really poised to try to beat Alabama and have a shot at a college football playoff. But I think Alabama, with a 10-game undefeated season in the SEC, can go into this championship game and really set themselves up with the number 1 seed in the college football playoff by playing well in this game, I think, and winning this game. I think Mac Jones has a chance to go in after Kyle Trask had such a bad game against LSU. He has a chance to go in here and really win the Heisman Trophy in this game. I think Najee Harris gets to create value for himself with some individual awards. I think Devontae Smith gets to do the same. There's other players on this team that get to create value in this championship game on a national stage for themselves. But you know what? I don't think this Alabama team is thinking about individual awards. Their heads are right. I think that they have been programmed in this process to know that Florida is just the next game on their schedule. It is a championship game, and they will get bragging rights again all year long for winning the SEC championship. So I think this team is going to go in there, and they're going to go in with their mind right and really match up well against this Florida team. As Florida plays defense, I think possibly if they can take a page out of Arkansas's playbook and really try to stop the deep ball, you might see again a slower start by the offense, Alabama's offense, to be able to take what they give them. I think all we have to do on offense to win this game is to limit our mistakes. Don't give them turnovers. They'll get them a chance to score. Limit our mistakes and take what the defense gives us. I keep saying that over and over, but that's what this Alabama team has done. They're built to win with the running game or win with the passing game. In some games, they do both of them well. But if they take one away, we're able to go ahead and beat them with the other game. So I think that's what Alabama needs to do in this game. Mac Jones just needs to play within himself and try to concentrate on victory and get this game under our belt and move on to the college football playoff. So I think on offense, you're going to see a great production out of Mac Jones. I think he does a great job in this game. He goes ahead and on a national stage has his moment and wins the Heisman Trophy. I think Devontae Smith has a good game. I think Najee Harris has a good game. and we come out of this game positioned ourselves well on offense to win this game. On defense, Florida has some playmakers. They have some athletes. Kyle Trask is a great quarterback. He knows how to get the ball to his playmakers. His tight end, Pitts, is probably the best tight end in football. And Tony, his wide receiver, can play all over the field and is very athletic. So our defense is going to have to match up well. How are we going to do that? The first way we do that is to pressure the quarterback. I said in the last segment I thought our defense was peaking at the right time and doing that. We have to continue and build on what we did against Arkansas, and we're going to have to pressure the quarterback. We got to get Kyle Trask off of his game. We can't just let him stay in the pocket. We can't let him extend plays on third down with his legs. We've got to keep him in the pocket with a short term and pressure him and get a lot of sacks. We get a lot of sacks in this game. You'll know this game is going well for Alabama. If we get a lot of sacks early in the game, it's going to cause them to get off the field on third down, and it's going to cause some turnovers in the passing game. If we do that, he can't get the ball out to his playmakers. We're going to have a really good game, and we got to cover well, just like we've done recently with our defensive backs and that dime rabbit coverage, and play well to stop the run. If we do that on defense, if our front seven pressures the quarterbacks and looks to play gap ball to stop the run, then I think this could be a long game for Florida. If we do make mistakes, we have blown coverages, then it might be a closer game. But I think Alabama's going to go into this game with the idea that this is just another step in the process of being national champions. And I believe we're going to go out there and play one of our best games, peak at the right time. We're playing in a place that we love to play, inside the great field there inside at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We're comfortable with it. It's not too big of a stage for us. We can go in there and play within ourselves and come out of here with a great victory. So I think at the end of the day, we'll see Mac Jones solidify himself as a Heisman Trophy candidate with the best chance to win. We'll see Devontae Smith move up in the Heisman rankings and nail down the Biletnikoff Award. We'll see Najee Harris nail down the Doak Walker Award. And we'll leave this game against the Florida Gators as SEC champions with a score of Alabama 48, Florida 14. Well, that's all the time we have this week for the DC Capstone Report. Join us back again next week as we review the Florida game and look forward to hopefully the college football playoff. Until then, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report saying roll tide. Have a great week.